Hello everybody, this is Nick from BIM Pure and welcome to a new episode of BIM Pure Live. I am your host, Nicolas Catelier. I'm an architect, a BIM specialist, and the founder of BIM Pure. We've got a great guest for you today, but before moving on with the guest, a couple of things to mention. Well, first, if you're watching live, you can type in the chat where you are watching from. Already we see people, Jacqueline from Frozen, Oklahoma, Laru from Seattle, Torque from Ohio, Ben from Paris, Waft from Calgary, someone from Liverpool, Cincinnati, Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Orlando, London, Spain, Algeria. Thanks for tuning in and watching from all around the world. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor. And the sponsor of this season of BIM Pure Live is Guardian for Revit, a plugin to help you clean your model, train your teams, and protect your work. Each week, we're checking a different feature of Guardian. This week, it is the registered projects, which has been fully revamped and reimagined in the latest 3.2 release. You can see all of your projects, Revit projects, in your entire organization. You can see the file size, you can see last save, you can see the Revit version. You can classify them in different categories. You can see different tabs, such as currently open. And if you hover your cursor, you can see the user currently working on that file. You can see Allison's been working there for 90 hours. You can click to create a new tab, use any of these pre-graded, or create a brand new tab for specific projects you want to see in there to filter them, such as ACC 2026. What that means, you create that tab, you go to the filtering menu, you can select only projects that are in ACC, and in Revit 2026, you will get the specific list. Again, you can see the size, who's working on that project, and then you can add specific labels. So that is the label manager. That's where it comes in. You can select things like region, phase, discipline, or even the template that the project was started in. And you can assign them manually, but more importantly, they can be driven directly from the shared parameters directly inside of the Revit model. So this can be automated, or you can manually select them and map them based on your shared parameter list. And once you're done with that, you can push all of this information to Power BI. You can see your entire list of projects. I have pie charts of like the Revit here typically use, how many commands have been used in all of these projects, like some of the bad commands you can see, number of users, user sessions, how many warnings you have to your entire file, the average file size. So you're using the Power BI to have a look at your entire data, Revit data, to all of your Revit projects. Check out the link in the video description to learn more about Guardian, or go to getguardian.tech. Thank you so much to Guardian for sponsoring this episode of BIM Pure Live. Yeah, what else do we have? The next episode of BIM Pure Live is going to be with Pia Petroso of Slantis. It's called Revit Template Mastery. So we're going to go deep about Revit templates, good practices, strategies, tips and tricks, but also we're going to learn about a new initiative at Slantis that I've actually been helping with the team. Yeah, so that's going to be unveiled on Wednesday. So that's next week at the same time on Wednesday. And finally, before moving on with the guest, this is the winter of BIM 2026. It's brand new content that we're releasing on the BIM Pure membership. First, we got the great Brian McKee, award-winning Autodesk University speaker, coming on for our members based on requests from people in our community on sessions about keynotes and taggings. Then we're going to release our brand new Revit casework collection on February 25th. We've got the great Paul Aubin joining us for 2 live sessions about advanced Revit modeling. It's going to be about facade modeling, specifically on the Snowden Towers project, and advanced Revit roof modeling. And finally, a course that I've been working on for a while, Mastering ACC for Revit projects. So that's all available in the BIM Pure membership already, along with our entire back catalog of content. Okay. I'm done with the announcement. So let's check out where people are watching from: Wisconsin, Ohio, Southwest Florida, India, Utah, Alabama, Dallas, Iced In, Chicago, Redwood City, California, Lincolnshire in the UK. Thanks for tuning in. It's amazing to read this list of people around the world. So my next guest, it's the second time on the show. Let me just unmute him. Uh, Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been 3 years. We were chatting yesterday and we couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe that it has been almost 3 years. May of 23 since our last session.
Yeah, I was looking for the model I did. I was like, oh yeah, it's got to be in 2024, right? And it was back in like
Yeah,
2022. So time flies.
it does. Yeah. So for people who might not know, who didn't watch the previous session, can you kind of do a recap of who you are and what is your work?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of BIM Advantage LLC, and we specialize in the big three of concrete, structural concrete, formwork, and we're dabbling a little bit in rebar. And I started doing this as a complete, not a mistake, but I just fell into Revit modeling. I was a drafter like most of us started our lives being. And I wanted to push Revit out of the box more and more. And what do you know, 20 years later, here we are.
And yeah, so I'm curious to see what changed last time. Last time you presented some Revit tips and tricks. It was a very popular session and
Mm.
strategies that you developed to model concrete. So what have you been up to in the last 3 years? You showed me some of the stuff yesterday. You've been working on custom add-ins, automation. What are you most excited about? What's going on then at BIM Advantage?
I think that how we're growing, like we're strategically growing and we continues to focus into the problems that live in the concrete world. We love this little niche that we're in. And the more we provide value to our clients, the more we understand like, wow, BIM can still fix real world problems. It's not just there's a lot of AI talk and stuff, and that's
Yeah.
great. But for us, we just AI doesn't work unless your models are really dialed in. So
Hmm.
that's kind of how we've been growing. On the automation side, that's been fun. We have like a team of software developers now, and I'm like, what happened in 3 years? Like what's going on? So it's been fun, scary, but fun.
Yeah. So you mentioned that that's also something I mentioned on LinkedIn while kind of
Hmm.
presenting the event. I'm excited about AI. I like to test out AI tools and all of that stuff. But
Sure.
it can feel like overhype, and sometimes you need to go touch grass and see that look, BIM is still producing high quality model that you can use for construction documents, cost estimating,
Hmm.
anything, but you still need accurate modeling. That's the core part of BIM. AI can help with that, but it's like quality modeling is not gone yet. It's still a core feature, and you need to be patient. It's a lot of work. You need to learn how to do it properly, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think the AI revolution is going to do a lot of good things, maybe before I retire at some point. But until then, you're
Yeah.
still going to need people with good skills that know how to use Revit as it was built. And instead of complaining all the time about what Revit can't do, just building around its limitations and making it work for you. So, yeah, that's our core principle on the modeling side.
Yeah, totally. So I think we should move to your screen. Let's see. Okay, so
Okay.
we can see you have Revit open. You have some
Hmm.
sort of sample model. So what is that? What do you want to show?
So this sample model, where I figured, let's just keep building on the model from 3 years ago. This is
Oh,
it.
that's the same one.
This is it, the
Oh, cool.
same one. And I figured there were some things here that last time we just weren't able to get into that apply to design and construction. And the first bit here would be step footings. Right down here at this foundation level, if I just kind of orbit a little bit, now, I'm going to talk a lot of construction speak, so please feel free to like interrupt. So in our world, this condition right here, that footing to column situation, even though the structural engineer's drawings just might show that butting into each other, and maybe the builder can actually build it that way, we never make that assumption, right? We always ask the question. okay, this pit's going to be built first, a certain amount of time will pass, and then they'll come back in and they'll pour this bad boy. But many times they will try to step this footing. So on the structural engineer's drawings, we'll see like those stepped, tags on plan. And I remember working for structural engineers and just placing those graphics and moving on with my life. But how difficult is it to actually model a stepped footing accurately? And how long does it take? So for this, we got to go to a plan view and of course got to tile these windows. I'm going to be using a lot of my keyboard shortcuts today, so just for the sake of speed and accuracy. So,
What are your favorite keyboard shortcuts? You have a few one that you use all of the time.
oh my, window tile, tab views, zoom all, zoom extent, and ASB. ASB
What
stands
is that?
for auto section box.
Oh.
So I know Revit has its own section
Mm-hmm.
box, but under
Oh yeah, the
add-ins,
coins one. Yeah.
coins one,
Uh-huh.
oh man, thing's beautiful.
Is
So yeah,
that
I
is that
like,
a free one? People can get
yeah,
that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And can you
Um,
tell us what it does, just for people who can be
Yeah,
curious?
so I'll show you right now.
Yeah.
So you can select a few elements that you want to create a section box around. A section box is a Revit out of the box tool. And if you're in your 3D view, you'll have a section box option there, right? So all that add-in does is manipulate that section box. So you'll select a few elements that you want to work around. I'll type in ASB. My dialog box will pop up and it'll ask me, okay, I'm going to apply the section box around these elements. How much further? And I just put 4 feet. So when I'm typing, it's just ASB enter. It reminds me of my last inputs and we're good. And the enter button, as I move forward, I can navigate and do like a meeting with the client just using ASB enter to walk around the building essentially in Revit. So when it comes to walls, ASB enter, and I'm navigating through walls. So yeah, let's go. Let's go back to these bad boys. Okay. So I have a section or an elevation pulled up, and of course, always keep your 3D view here on the right just for nice, easy viewing. Make sure things look well. Stepped footing, it's usually addressed in a typical detail where the structural engineer will give you the rules behind that stepped footing. And usually they'll tell you the steps cannot be um, deeper than 1 foot or 1 foot 6. So that is like a rise over run for the architects. So we're going to do the rise portion of the step footing. And I'll just do that with lines. Good old drafting. Just going to draw 3 lines here. And we can just move this guy up a little bit. Let's get our thin lines in here. And in the concrete world, our clients hate different heights on your step footings, right? When they see just 2 steps and there's a large distance between this footing up here and this footing down here, they will add steps to make sure that it meets the criteria of the typical detail. So whenever we get a typical detail with the step footing, we put our steps in and we equalize it because that's what they want, just equal steps. And if this meets the maximum of the typical footing, great. If the typical detail says a max of 14 inches, then we have to add one more step here and equalize them. Okay. So usually a typical detail will say whatever your height is, your run is 2 times that. So our run is going to be 3 feet. And for simplicity's purposes, I'm going to do the 3 feet starting from that corner of the wall, 3 feet left. Let's draw a line here and let's just go 3 feet to the left, step up and trim. Easy peasy so far. Now we just modify these bad boys. 3 feet up, trim. Trim, and then one more, 3 feet up. So that is the top of footing for our stepped condition. Now we need a minimum thickness of 2 feet, which is the depth of the footing that's coming that way. It needs a minimum thickness of that. So let's go ahead and draw a good old diagonal line, offset it by 2 feet, and that is the minimum thickness that this thing needs as it steps down. How do we figure out where the back of the step needs to be? All we do is extend our horizontal lines over to that minimum. So I can use my trim multiple command, TM. I don't know if that's Revit out of the box shortcut, but
I think so, yeah.
I think so, right? Okay, so that's where it's going to end. And then all I do is just add a vertical line here. Copy. Come on. So far, so good. Kind of
Yeah,
we're getting there.
that makes
All right, from
sense.
here, it's good old copy, trims. All right, so now trim single. I bring my top footing back. There she goes. Now I can grab that footing and just copy it down to those corners. Copy,
So,
snap endpoint.
so
Go
just
ahead.
wait. Did you trim that piece?
Yep.
Because what
Uh,
kind of element is that? That's kind of a beam,
oh, that's right.
or?
So in our last, 900 days ago,
Yeah.
we're using structural beams for our slab edges. And if you want to understand more why we do that, yeah, go back to that to that other video because I dive deep as to why we do that. But another advantage of using a beam is now it allows us to copy paste and kind of manipulate and just work,
Mhm.
faster. So yes, I just trim that thing back, trim single. Now I can copy, snap endpoint, and now just snap endpoint in place everywhere you go. Okay. Don't worry about how this looks like on the back end, because what are we gonna do? Trim single. Trim these guys back. And now we can delete your section or just delete your lines and call it a day. You might want to detail this at some point, or create a project specific detail. Throw this on your drawings, change your view template and get all your line work looking nice. And
Yeah,
then just go.
I love that you're using these 2D lines as well. It's always a tip that I give
Mhm.
some client and people because I'm struggle to like model stuff directly. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to know exactly where it's going to position, and just use 2D detail lines, especially if they're in color or something. Then you
Yeah.
can just get rid of them afterwards.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it, but a lot of people also don't do it, and it's a
You
great
know,
trick to model quickly.
I mean, I guess you could call it like an old school drafting method,
Yeah.
construction lines,
Hmm.
but some things just don't get old.
Yeah, I
Don't
agree.
overcomplicate it, use lines and move on with life. Um, okay, so look, that was relatively simple. It was just good old drafting, trimming, and copying. That's it. From here in your 3D view, you just infill this section with like a retaining wall. Everyone here at this point knows how to model walls, and you would just edit the sketch of the base of that wall. And that's how they would actually build it, because they would pour this footing with either this bottom portion, or they'll try and pour all of it up to this footing.
S-
Some builders will just try and pour all of it together and just form it out with plywood.
So your specialty is modeling for subcontractors. So is this
Uh,
model for subcontracting construction as well?
like
And
this specific model?
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, this one's the one we did 3 years ago. It's just something we're making up as we go.
Yeah, but I know. But typically, you model for subcontractors, right?
hmm Yeah, like 95% of our clients are all concrete builders.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
So, what's the process like? So, do you receive Revit files from structural engineers, or you start from the PDF from scratch? What is the typical workflow?
Uh-oh, you're gonna get me in like hot water here. We start from absolute scratch. Hey, just send us your PDFs. We'll figure out what your scope is or give us a list of your scope. We'll find it and we'll build it from scratch. Usually they'll say, oh, but I have a Revit model. Yeah, by all means, send it over. Like the
As a
design
reference.
models, they help us understand what was the intent behind it. But for the designers here in the room, can't really use it for much
Hmm.
because walls are going through multiple levels, columns are going through all the levels, and we work by phase and sequence, so everything needs to be split up how they're going to build it. So yeah, you
Yeah, so,
know,
so I guess what you're saying is that you're modeling as it's going to be built. Like if a foundation wall, you're gonna model the
yes,
section for each floor instead of a huge wall. That's not how it's
correct,
actually being poured.
correct.
Hmm.
And I also respect that in the design world, maybe there isn't enough time or enough margin to really dedicate
Yeah.
to getting to this level of detail.
Hmm.
But it doesn't take a lot. I know you guys might be upset. It doesn't take a lot to split your walls by level.
Hmm.
You can use a Dynamo script. There's a few free apps out there that'll split everything by level. It just makes it that much easier by the time it gets to the builders, like the guys in the field that are actually going to pour this stuff. Without them, none of this stuff exists. So, yeah, if we can kind of unite both sides of a project, design and construction,
Hmm.
just with like basic tips like this, oh man, we'll all be better for it.
Yeah. So these tips apply both to design professionals and people like you
Yep.
modeling for subcontractors.
Yep.
Someone in the chat
Absolutely.
asked, how did you delete all of the lines with just the commands, which just using the filtering
Oh,
tool, I guess?
yeah. Select all, filter, select lines, delete.
Yeah.
Um, let's, yeah, that's just a basic functionality. I guess I just go super fast. I don't know if I undo. There you go. Yeah, so what I did is I just selected like so. FL for filter, that's my keyboard shortcut. Check none, lines, spacebar, go, delete. EE.
Good. Let's
So
see.
I
Yeah.
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, we have another question. Why step the bottom though? Not serving any real purpose. Contractors just make the bottom diagonally flat. So I don't know enough about concrete to know what
Yeah,
if it's.
yeah, I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
So right here, what he's saying is sometimes they'll do just this, right? They'll just flatten the bottom of it and
Hmm.
leave the top stepped. It depends on the typical detail that's in the drawings. Maybe the company of that person who asked the question, maybe that's their typical detail to just slope the bottom of the step.
Hmm.
Depends on the soils of some parts of the country. Some soils are super soft and they have to step it. Others not so much, and the slope is enough. So, yeah,
So is
pretty
that
much.
the step the California standard?
That's a good question. I don't think it's a standard, but but I definitely model these more often than the bottom slope.
Yeah.
But then, for example, with our clients in New York or in the East Coast, they might have a full step like that and then piers at the bottom, like these big column looking things that go under this deep foundations, just because the soils are different over there. So it just depends on what the engineer has called out. That's all.
Someone
But
is asking on the chat. Uh, wait, do you use crate parts when you need to split the wall into casting sequences?
you can. The beauty of parts is that it allows you to keep one wall and have separate child elements. It just doesn't become as easy to manipulate if you have to,
It's kind
right?
of a pain to manage. I don't like them very much.
It's a little tough. We
Yeah.
have used it for pour planning. So let's just say this floor is going to be poured in 4 stages, right? Yes, we would create parts out of this right there. We'd create parts and split the part into fours and then draw a schedule from it. But not so much on walls.
Yeah. Yeah, we got another good question from Maiden Fan. How does all that look on a printed PDF? So that brings me a larger question. What is the deliverable? Do people in the field use the model or does it go straight to PDF? How does that work?
Right now it's about half and half. We
Yeah.
have clients that want this, like you guys see here, an elevation fully detailed out with spot elevations and everything. On the other spectrum, we have folks just using the model and no drawings. They had no deliverable or a submittal to submit to the GC, and they're just using the model and like walking through it in their iPad on the field and like taking measurements and stuff. So I'm getting both right now.
I'm really glad to hear that because I still see some people that are like, no, it's impossible. We're never gonna have BIM models as deliverables, blah blah blah. But I'm like, well, it's actually being done in certain projects
It
and in
is.
certain areas, so it's not
It
it's not a
is.
dream. But again, like, the key is that the model needs to be really high quality, and probably you
Yeah.
need a dedicated on the construction side, a dedicated team remodeling the whole thing in the construction way more than the design way, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you need like the client side, they need to be believers,
Yeah.
right? Because
Hmm.
we can't re-educate someone as to why BIM is great, right? So if they already believe in BIM, then there's a champion on that side that's helping you like back check the model. Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, we're professionals in the 3D modeling space.
Yeah.
But a client that's in the field, I'm not gonna act like I know everything there is about pouring concrete in the field, right? It's
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah, but you know enough that you can model
now,
accurate stuff that is going to be
yeah,
helpful on the field, and then the people
yeah,
are going to like, well, what is that? Why is it modeled this way? That's crazy.
yeah. Well, like the step footing situation. We've
Yeah.
done it so many times that
Uh,
now we know when we get a new project, we look for it. If there's any pits or if there's any elevators, we look for it. So good little good little thing to keep in mind, especially for the structural designers in the room. This didn't take that long to model, and it provides a lot of value if you're going to share this later with the builders. So something to keep in mind.
all right. So there are a few more questions, but I
Mhm.
think we'll wait, and you should show some more tips, and we'll get back to some of the question I see in the chat. So we're going to return to it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no.
what more do you want to show us?
Okay. So in our world of concrete first, let's just assume this is a typical podium project, 2 levels of concrete and then wood above. We care a lot about the wood portion. Like, oh, well, why? You guys are concrete builders. Why would you care about the wood side? Well, because we have bolts that is our client's scope. Now, it might not be the concrete's responsibility to buy the material, like to buy the anchor bolts and the hold downs. That's maybe the wood framer's responsibility to buy it, or maybe the GC's responsibility. But it is the concrete guy's responsibility to place them. So we care about where they go. So we model all of that. But to do that, we use families. We're not trying to manually place things where we don't need to. So let me just reformat my view here a little bit. Good old selection, ASB enter, and then a good nice little orbit. And I'm just going to add 2 walls here just for us to get an idea of what we're dealing with. So I'll walk you through my keyboard shortcuts. WA for wall. I got my 6-inch stud for the exterior, and I'm going to use my pick lines tool, PL, and we'll just do 10-foot unconnected, and let's just add a wall here and add a wall here. And we'll just apply a little bit of a transparency to these guys. All right. Now, how the heck do we add bolts to this thing? So in my families browser over here on the left under generic models, we have a couple custom families in here. And the whole point of these families is not just to place content quickly, but it's also to educate our user. It helps with training. So in this case, we have a family called shear wall hosted. That's telling the user this family cannot exist unless there is a Revit wall that has been modeled. So as part of our workflow, you have to model the wall first, follow the architectural, drawings. If you're a structural engineer, Let me use copy monitor. Let me populate all my walls and select which ones are going to be structural. And then these type 1 and type 2, that's just from the structural engineer's shear wall schedule. So if I double click on type 1, for example, you see we got bolt spacing, stud spacing, what my top plate situation looks like, what my sill plate situation looks like, plywood thickness, all of that. So now let's go ahead and place it. Drag and drop. My cursor goes crazy. It says, nope, there needs to be a wall. Great. And now I should remove let me extend my section box. There we go. Let's just pull it up. There we go. And let's redo that again. So cursor goes crazy, drag and drop. Don't worry about the preview. Click to place. Okay, let's go thin lines on this guy. So what do we have here? We have a shear wall with a bunch of parameters added to it. And we have anchor bolts and hold downs that are viewable. And we have plywood, the shear portion of the wall. Now, the anchor bolts, you might not want to see this in plan view. Maybe you just want to show this in a cool little 3D presentation view. That's where visibility comes in. Good organization of your family comes in. So if I go to medium detail level, you don't see anchor bolts. You won't see them on plan if they're set to coarse, etc. So now this shear wall family, okay, we have a run of bolts that we need to take into account, but there's a couple of options that we can focus on first. This is a 6-inch wall. So my start post and my end post need to update to 6x6s. I'm pretty sure there's a way to automate this, but we're pushing Revit out of the box. And once you do that, it pushes that hold down out to its correct location on both sides. Okay, how do we extend this? Because working in 3D is where you want to live as much as possible. I use my align tool, align to this face, and I'm not going to select the face of the element. If I select the face of the element, this whole thing will move, like so. Instead, I'm going to select an invisible reference line that's embedded in the family, right there. That will extend the element itself. Same thing on the other side. Extend. Same thing at the top. Extend. So now you have an accurate shear wall that you can tag on plan for the structural engineering folks, that you can pull quantities from, because when I go to a fine detail level, we have anchor bolts. Now, how do we get even more detailed for our clients in the concrete world? Well, let's go to a plan view and let's go to my top of slab plan, tile my windows, and let's take a look at what this thing looks like. So when I select my shear wall family, I have some wording here. End, start. In the family properties on the right, you can see that that corresponds to the naming of some of these parameters. Start post, do I want one? Yes or no? If I turn it off, it goes away. Okay. And also, where is going to be the first start of a bolt? Like when they measure and they start placing these bolts in, are they going to start from the top left-hand corner? So we have those conversations. So let's just assume it's going to be from the other side. We'll flip it. And let's just zoom in here. And now you can see we got some issues going on. If this is the start, this back corner, you can see we already got some interferences, right? And if we look at the properties of this type 1 shear wall, it's what is it? It was 1.5 feet on the bolt spacing. So I can select this family and say, what is my first bolt location from the edge? And you can play with this number, 2 feet, and it'll start moving those bolts out. So essentially what we want is, if I were to place a dimension here from the center, oops, let's do this. Dimension from center to center, that can be 1'6". right? Because the hold down counts as holding down that shear wall. So we can play with the start bolt, that first bolt, to try and avoid as many studs as possible because we care about the wood framer's life too, you know? So yeah. Any questions so far there, Nick?
Yeah, well, it seems like you're kind of doing the job of the wood guys, the wood companies, right? So how do the wood subcontractors sometimes use your stuff or say, hey, how did you
Not
do
yet.
that? Not
No,
yet.
not yet. We leave that to our concrete client. Like, hey, if you want to share that first lift of walls
Mm-hmm.
with them, like, hey, by all means, share it with them
Yeah.
because nothing's ever really separate. Like
Uh-huh.
even in
Yeah.
the concrete world, you have formwork, you have a formwork guy to think about, you have the rebar folks to think about. But when you get to a podium, you have the wood folks to think about, and there's always going to be an interface, you know? So as
Yeah.
long as you care about the next party, everyone will be fine.
Yeah, there's someone in the comments. I've never experienced family envy so intensely as right this minute. So yeah, I'm also fascinated by it because we were discussing this yesterday. We've also been working with the offsite wood. We've created this toolbar that
Yep,
automatically plays wood family openings. So it seems like we've been doing kind of similar work. In your case, it's focused on what you need for concrete modeling, but it still has
correct,
all of the studs. And I'm
correct.
sure are these kind of nested shared families that are
Yep, yep,
schedulable? Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, right?
yep. In our case, it started with my days in structural engineering. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you a couple other things that apply just to structural engineers that I use for us. But the goal is no, we want to help out our concrete world. The more information they have, the clearer it is. Then if they have good relationships with their wood framers on the job, then it becomes like BIM starts solving a lot of problems for everybody.
Yeah, but the whole point of this is is mostly for
Hmm.
the anchor bolts, like so you know the
Correct.
position. That's because that has a
Correct.
major impact on the concrete. Yeah,
Yep.
that's fascinating. So was this? So there's a link that I added in the video description. That
Hmm.
is that part of the pack that you send to people?
Oh yeah. No, so
Yeah.
like at the end when you guys hit the link, you will have there is no need for family envy. You'll have access to this and you guys can you know what I'm actually curious to see if you guys have ways to make it better. Because you'll
Yeah.
see that you can break it. There's versions of breaking
Yeah.
this
Uh-huh.
eventually. So yeah.
Yeah. So check out the link in the description. I just added it like 1 minute before it was live, so you might need to refresh to see it. But you can download this family. I think you have a few more that you're going to show during this live event.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm curious. Do you have what about like doors and windows? Do you have a solution for that?
Well, I might get to it. We have time. That's coming up next.
Good.
All right. So you read my mind. Windows. So this is a exterior wall. So let's close this and let's just focus. Exterior wall, we have some interferences with studs yet, but I'm not going to address that yet. That'll be the last part of my refinement. Let's say there's a window in this wall now. And you can see how we have our families communicating with our users, like rename window tag, like look at the architectural window schedule and update. So I'll just place this bad boy here. Okay. And the window, let's go with the typical 3 foot sill. All right. And you can see I got top jam extension and bottom jam extension. You see the nodes there. I have to extend those. What are we going to use? Align. Align to the underside of the top plate. Find that hidden reference line that exists everywhere. Same thing here. Find the hidden reference line. There you go. And assuming that this is the correct position of this window, oh, actually, we got to cut geometry now, by the way. So CU for cut geometry. All right, it cuts everything out of the infill framing. Yes, I can see that I need to update this family eventually because it's not cutting out everything. You can see my little infill studs there. But again, what's important for us is what's happening at the sill. So now we come down to this sill, and now we see some real issues with anchor bolts, and we can further refine all of these anchors. So this is where I'll call my client and say, what do you want to do here? Do you want to move anchor bolts and add anchor bolts? And sometimes they'll say yes. So this is just a simple filter. Under my visibility graphics, under filters, I have something called if it has an X in the comments, it's not visible. This is where I should say not visible. So I hit OK, and I just start hover, tab, click because they're shared nested families. It allows you to do that. I'll hover, tab, click over bolts that are not going to exist here. Okay, that looks pretty good. This one's okay. They'll just notch something out of the wood, and then hopefully this will work. They should just go away. Great. They went away. You want to say something, Nick?
No, no, no.
Okay, I
No,
thought I
no,
saw you get
keep
ready.
going. Keep going. No,
All
this
right.
is fascinating stuff.
All right. And from there, this is where it becomes manual. When you refine, that should be manual. You want to put your eyes on to make sure you're correct. So I will hover, tab, click on another anchor bolt, and I will use my create similar function, CS, and then eventually place one there. I just can't because there's a plywood thing going on here. So that's how we refine the placement of our bolts after you have a window, you have your openings all in, and your doors. For to kind of dive deeper on this window for the structural folks in the room, let me just add a very unrealistic door at this exterior. Right, here's a door. All right, same situation, align. There's a hidden reference plane. Cut geometry, select your destination first, or select your victim first. That's what it should be. And these headers are also nested and taggable. So now I can select my door frame and change my header. This is a 6-inch wall, so 6 by 8. Same thing with my window frame. It's a 4 by 10, but I can do a 6 by 8. And now you don't have to worry about your third floor framing plan. You just make your view depth deep enough, and you can tag all these headers below. Um,
That's really cool.
yeah.
I love it. So as you know, I'm also a big proponent of powerful Revit families.
Mhm,
I mean, there's you can go so deep when you know them well.
mhm.
So I love this stuff. I've also
Yeah,
been building,
glad.
but like I built similar. It was like, oh, that's a really cool trick. I didn't think of that one.
Well, like, yeah, I think it was I forgot who I saw like door swings, like how
Hmm.
to do a really good door swing. And it was like a sweep that's hidden. It,
Oh, okay.
it like we use that for some
Hmm.
methodologies in our when we're organizing our families.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that I've learned from others creating these families that if you guys were to open it, you guys could probably be like, well, you could do this to make it better or whatever, more functional.
Hmm.
Okay, let me just save this bad boy before, this thing decides to crash or something crazy. Okay.
And again, all of these families available in the link
Hmm.
on BIM Advantage. Oh, cool.
Yes.
So someone
Okay.
mentioned, good question in the comment. Would it be possible to spread evenly the anchor bolts using Dynamo?
Of course. Of course. Dynamo has its place, right? The reason that we stick to families is because this helps us with our hiring process. When we're onboarding new people, not everybody knows Dynamo, right? So, yeah, you can use Dynamo if if it's only you and you're really well versed, absolutely. For us, it's just embed it in a family and keep it simple for everybody. Okay, moving on.
Let's go.
You already know how to hide those 3 bolts, right? We don't have to repeat that. But let's just say that's too long. I have to now copy monitor walls from an architectural, or I have to model structural wood walls just to place bolts. That's 3 steps. Well, we have another family for that. So let's just say you don't want to model walls. If I go back to my generic models, now I have another one called anchor bolts, line-based. Still uses the same nested families. Still uses my same post, hold downs, and bolts, but it's line based. So drag and drop. And when I drag and drop, you can see that if I go off, my cursor also is like, nope, don't like that. So you go come up here to your design bar and it tells you how it's built. It wants to work on a plane or a face, and it's line based, which is nice. That means I can use my pick lines tool, pick edges. So I'm going to say, you know what? I need bolts right here. Be careful where you put your cursor, because if you put it here, it's going to come off sideways. You don't want that. So hover on the side of the face that you want. So come on, come on. There we go. So this one's built a little differently. This is for the user that really just wants to live in 3D, never wants to go to plan views. Because here I have model text that says the bolt starts here. This is where the spacing starts. On the other family, it's just text on plan embedded in the family. But this works very similarly, but it's line based, which allows me to use split lines if there's doors here in the middle that I want to add.
Yeah, can you explain that? What are the benefits to a line-based families? I got to admit, I don't use them very often. So
Hmm.
why do you use them, and
Yeah,
what
so
advantage do you see?
so what it allows us to do is it allows different modelers to reach the same conclusion, the same result in different ways. So in this case, let me just delete. Let me go back and activate my tool. I'm not going to use my pick lines. I'm just going to draw. There we go. Come on. Come on. Now I can just draw in 3D and I can use my snap endpoint. I can use trim commands. I can use split line commands. So think of it as drafting now. If it's line based, it's a line. You can use all your line based modify tools. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you can.
Okay, so
I
let,
think with line-based family, you can also kind of trim them and kind of use
yep,
tools that you can with the lines, right?
correct. So if this was back here, and let me just fix the positioning of this guy real quick, you can use trim. Okay. So you can use this kind of stuff. So the functionality of this family, it's just called anchor bolts. It's also a generic model, but it gives the user that same functionality without needing to model walls first or having walls first. And now, like I mentioned, you can come in here, you can split this bad boy, and you can pull them back, for door openings, or you can turn off the start and end posts. So if bolt start is over here, we don't need end posts. You can start turning some of this stuff off. So that's the beauty of our families, just relieving the burden from the user and teaching them about construction at the same time. Like I believe that the families need to educate, or
That's a
else
really
what's
good
the
point.
point of
Hmm.
having a family?
Yeah, great point. So we have okay, a question that has been asked a few times. What about rebar? So from my understanding, people in North America tend to not model rebar, but it's more common in Europe. What have you
Oh,
seen, and
wow.
what are your views on rebar?
It's a different world. All of our clients, not all, most, they have a separate company that does the rebar,
Okay.
both in construction, like they're called rod busters, people placing them, and then a different company modeling the rebar. I do believe it's best to keep everything under one shop, one house,
Hmm.
It allows you to control different aspects of it. But yeah, rebar, that's a different 8 hour
Yeah.
8 hour BIM Pure BIM Pure live session.
All right. But is that a myth that it's more common in Europe and less so in North America to model, or I
I don't
misunderstood?
know. I can't confirm that.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
don't do much a lot in Europe. It wouldn't surprise me because Europe does a lot of innovative things that hasn't really reached the US yet.
Hmm.
So if they are, it's pretty impressive, honestly.
Uh, Okay, so what else? Any other cool stuff? There's a few questions, but I want you to keep
Yeah, go
going a little
for it.
bit.
Yeah, you can go for it. That's no problem.
Well, some people were asking about. Let me scroll up a little bit about running a company from Real Bodogo asking a request to Kevin if he can talk about running his company, getting leads, sourcing employees. Does he work internationally, managing
Mm,
workload from different companies? I mean, we could do a whole complete session about it, but
that could. The short version of that is our entire modeling team is in Latin America. Um, and we've been able to grow it in a very sustainable fashion where training has been of the utmost importance.
mhm.
Training, patience, extending grace, right? Like, yes, this is a business, but we're people and we got to learn. And just because someone learns construction in a different country, even Europe, it can apply to how some construction practices happen in the US, but needs to be training. So in that aspect, you guys will get a version of this too. We use drafting views for our training and project setup. Okay. So that our BIM manager doesn't need to keep repeating himself with the basic stuff. So it's just good old screenshots telling the user how we want our file set up.
Yeah. So the training is embedded in the template. Yeah, that's a good
It's
idea.
embedded. They file new project and right under drafting views, we have a custom parameter for our browser and our views. It's just called 10 training. And we'll have tiers. Like if they're an apprentice, they're probably learning just to create these files, get everything set up. Um, but yeah, this helps out a lot in maintaining the quality and making sure everyone's on the same page. So hopefully that gives you a little insight as to how we run the business side of things.
That's really
Oh,
interesting. Yeah.
okay. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about. Something simple, but it affects the concrete world like you have no idea. Warped slabs, or in this case, this very unrealistic small courtyard slab with some warps in it. For that, I'm going to go to a plan view, and I'm just going to use drafting lines to set up my low points. So let's just go to my top of slab, window tile, zoom in. I'll just isolate this slab for now, and let's just get a little view here. Plan view, isolate, and let's just draw some lines. And let's just say, yeah, let's just say something like that. And there's going to be a point at each middle. Okay, so you'll see why I draw these diagonals. Grab the floor, modify sub-elements, and first add a split line. Okay, first you want your highs, and then you want your lows. So this is split lines. Now I'm just going to add a point, and on my keyboard, I'm going to type in SM for snap midpoint, and I'm placing a low point at each of these boxes. Okay, first step down. Delete the lines so we can now modify happily. Select the floor again, and now we say modify sub-elements. Just going to select my points, my low points. Up here on my elevation base, you can play with those settings however you like. This is taking the default setting of the floor. So you can see over here, there's a little 4-inch step from the main building onto the courtyard, but I need these guys to be 2 inches lower for drainage or whatever you want to call them. Okay, everything warps and it looks good on plan. Ah, my shading looks great. Let's move on. No problem. I'll let the typical detail figure out the rest. Well, what happens in the concrete world when we get this? Well, let's look under. Right now it's flat. Looks great. But when we cut a section through here, come on, we zoom in. There's our low point. But on the structural drawings, we'll get a note that says 12-inch courtyard slab minimum, which means it can't be less than 12 inches anywhere. So right here, well, this is really 10 inches. So what do we do? The modeling fix could be, oh, Kev, your floor is set to variable. I'm gonna go to my type properties and it's set to variable. That allows your base to be flat. So cool. Not cool. If I do unvariable and I say okay and okay, the bottom follows that top warp and it warps the bottom of the slab as well. Can that be done in real life? Yes, it can. Is it easy? Probably not so much. They, in the concrete world, straight lines are money. So what we will do as modelers is we'll have this conversation with our builder, with our client. We'll say, hey, how are you going to build this? Do you want to flatten the bottom? He's like, yeah, I would rather add a little bit of concrete, make sure that the engineer is okay with it, but I would rather flatten that to make my life easy. So this is what we'll do. We'll keep this minimum distance here, the minimum 12. And in 3D, I will add a family called soffit thickening. It's a structural framing member. I explained that in the first video that we did. So in my family's browser, I'll go to structural framing. You'll see here, soffit floor-based. I will drag and drop soffits. Drag and drop. It selects the underside of the floor. You can see my cursor. Needs a floor to exist. Okay, let's place it here. Okay, there it is. I need the bottom part of this soffit to be the bottom part of that drain. So what is that going to be? Let's just put a good old dimension from here to the bottom, 6 inches. Great. Now I can select this bad boy and say that my depth is 6 inches. Okay. And now on plan, I will move this to the center of my courtyard. So let's go to top of slab. There's my little soffit guy. I'll draw a line, a rectangle with a 2-foot offset, and I'll explain why right now. Oops, sorry guys. 2 foot. And now let's add it here. And it's a good old align now. So if I hover first, that'll move the whole thing. If I tab in, that'll extend the actual element. Okay. Okay. And this is going to go to the outside. And we are almost done. Now let's go back to my section and just take a look. All right, so we got some weirdness happening here. This soffit joined with that floor because that was the host. And both elements share the same material. So there's no little joint there. For this part, it's just overlapping, which means that if I pull quantities, I'm going to get incorrect information, extra information. So I'm going to use join geometry. Join geometry, floor, soffit. Now everything is joined. My floor has its quantities and my soffit has its quantities. Keeps the base, the bottom flat. And there's going to be a typical detail about this somewhere in the engineering drawings. This should be 2 foot. Oh, I probably did it from here. This overlap, we would go to the structural engineering drawings to make sure that it all makes sense. So we addressed what the architect wanted, which is the warps at the top of slab. And we addressed what the structural engineer wanted, which was the minimum thickness of that slab. But then we're looking out for our client. We're like, what do you want to do? Hey, I want to keep that flat. You know, that just keeps things great. So can you model it that way? I will create an RFI, request for information, and I'll send that to the structural engineer to make sure it's okay. Okay, great. So we've made all three parties happy, except I see something a little off here. That soffit is not joining with my wall. In this case, the wall needs to cut short of my soffit, always. So I'm going to do join geometry here. Join geometry. Because Revit considers walls higher in importance than framing, it cut out my framing element. But I need to switch that join. So SJ. Now, if I look on the outside, I have the same overlap that we see in the detail because that's how it's going to be built. So when I extrude my wall elevation, I dimension all of these little jogs in the wall elevation so the builder knows like where to put this stuff. Clear, clear as mud.
It's clear. No, it's very clear. People are excited about these tips. We even have architects uh,
Oh,
excited in comments. Yeah, because even architects need to model foundations sometimes, like
yeah,
early in the projects, right?
yeah,
Before the structural engineers get going. I've modeled a lot of foundation walls, and sometimes like, how should I model this?
yeah.
Should you include like the siding part, the same part of the wall? Typically, the answer is no, right? You separate
Sure.
the concrete from the rest,
Mhm.
but most architects are not sure how to deal with this stuff. So
It's just good for everybody to know, and then from there they can take it on a case by case basis if they want to go through the extra, it is extra effort, but go through the extra effort. It's if it's going to streamline your drawings. If it's going to be on your drawings anywhere, I would suggest going through the extra effort. And if you're going to share the model with somebody, I would say go through the extra effort. Someone is going to appreciate it.
yeah,
Uh, s- Speaking of the architects, maybe they'll like this. Um, we have to model any sort of shower drain as well because our concrete has to trowel that. So what we'll do for that, also under generic models, you'll see a couple of voids here. Void, drain, sloped, floor hosted, void, drain, centered. So I'll drag and drop this guy, click to place. You need a floor or else it won't happen. And now let me just tile these windows real quick. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, let's just select the element and say, I don't know what showers typically are, 5 by 7. And the depth will be 0. Let's just say it's 0 because there is no step. So it starts at the top and starts sloping towards the center. And let me pull in an elevation here. Okay, that guy. So 1 inch at the bottom. Guess what we have to do to the soffit? We have to thicken it. So same situation. If there's that note on the structural engineering drawings that says 12-inch PT slab minimum in capitals, we will thicken the bottom of this shower because right there it's not 12 inches, it's 11 inches. So it's just little things that maybe people don't think about. So let me just place this guy here somewhere. That's egregiously large. Bring it back in, bring it back in. We'll use the typical detail again of 2 feet. And yeah, just do this.
I love this because I remember trying to model stuff like that and ended up doing multiple kind of floor composition, each like
Yeah.
slightly thicker. It's super annoying and kind of clumsy workflow. So I love this approach better.
And again, we use structural framing because it doesn't have all of the parameters that floors have, and it allows us to be more specific with our counting. So, for example, if I cut this section here or I move this section, right? They will actually do this. They will actually put their form low just to make sure that it meets the structural requirement. But if I select this element, structural framing, and we look, where's data? Data. There's the cubic yards, right? If I were to model this as a floor, I would also get area. And area doesn't apply here, right? Because I select the floor and under data, I got cubic yards and area. So this is just extra concrete that area doesn't apply. They just need volume, total volume. So now what I can do is under the type, you can see my material, concrete suspended slabs. Well, my floor has the same material. Now I can do a material takeoff, filter by level, and I don't have to worry that I have extra area anywhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So we should bring this to an end. I see the time flying. A couple
I
more things I
know.
just wanted to ask before we quit. First, in the description I had cost estimation as one of the topic. But from my point of view, just cost estimation just comes down to accurate modeling. If you have accurate modeling, you
Correct.
just make a material takeoff, set the
Correct.
proper filters, set the proper price, and it kind of does it for you, right? Any other tips or approach when it comes to cost estimation?
Um, Color coding, using legends and standard image pixels.
That
I don't
yeah,
know if we have time to show that.
that was my second question about the color coding stuff that you showed me yesterday, along with your automation. If you could just
N-
show a glimpse of it and explain,
yeah,
that's kind of
absolutely.
fascinating to me.
Absolutely. Um, so this is an active live project. It just got topped out. It was just completed. And this is on the ACC. But before our client won this project, we created a bid model for them or an estimate model going through the workflow that you mentioned, getting the PDFs and building it out. So what that looks like is if I were to go here to my sheets and views under my sequenced model, this model has been displaced using the Revit functionality and published to the cloud. And the client has told us how they feel they're going to sequence and pour this thing. So we color coded everything and allowed them to go present to their client. Well, as part of our deliverable, if I just X out of here and I go here to our deliverables, this is on the ACC, by the way, and I go to quantity takeoff. This is where accurate modeling comes in handy. So this is the first page, but if do I not have more pages here? I should have more pages here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So let's go to page 2. Or does it just not want to go now? There we go. We'll start here. Maybe it'll load. That material takeoff and modeling accurately using families that are easy to use allows an export to be that much easier. Because now we have a schedule fully baked into our template that's looking for these colors, and then it'll just create that export for us. Now, if I could just get the other view to pop up, but of course it won't, because that's not how things work out. Essentially, I have another page on this PDF that's not visible for some reason, where everything is color coded. There we go. Look at that. Finally, let's go to page 2. And now you guys get an idea for the legend color coding that I was talking about. So everything that's in blue back there, it's being blued out here. Oops, come on, come on. It's being blued out here.
And how did you set the colors in the
So
schedule?
that is automated. We
Uh-huh.
have an in-house app
It's the
that our
plugin, yeah.
team has built to just make this part simple so that all of this formatting is automatic. The user just has to focus on modeling it correctly. That's it. So on the user side, on the modeling side, they just select elements and they say, yeah, this is going to be week 1. And then everything else gets auto formatted. So yeah.
That is beautiful. I mean, just looking at this model displays with all of the colored phasing, the takeoff. Like to me, that's the essence of BIM. You know, we hear so much. BIM is about this. It's about using 12 different apps and digital twin and blah. But it's I think it's about very accurate modeling in correct categories with best practices. And if you have that, you can use your model for anything, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Like in this case, in this very specific case, they wanted to model this to understand how are they going to build it, right? And to present to the client. So part of the sale. But when we got in here and we modeled these stepped footings, come on, that wasn't in the structural engineering drawings because we got design development drawings. That's usually what concrete builders use to price. Think about that. The PDFs aren't even done and they have to price off of it. So we will model it and then we'll ask them, hey, there was a continuous footing there. What are you going to do? Because this thing is really low. And they say, no, 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 we got to step all of that. So we step all the footings, and guess what? They were awarded the project, but they could go back to the general contractor and say, I need a change order here. Like, look at the drawings and look how it needs to be built. So that's the beauty of modeling, not just a pretty picture, even though the picture is worth 1,000 words. It's how do we provide value to the person that needs the information? So something as simple as, I'm not going to model all those step footings. That's too much work. Okay. Just think about someone downstream who does not catch that. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I underpriced this thing. So hopefully that gives you an idea as to how we operate and why we model the way we do.
Fascinating session, Kevin. Amazing stuff. So we have in the link in the video description. You can download this family showcase by Kevin. Other things to mention. Please subscribe to this channel. I always forget to mention during the live event. So if you enjoy this content, subscribe. We always have more of this sort of stuff. I'll also mention, again, thanks to our sponsor, Guardian. Check them out. You can clean your models from your team, protect your work with Guardian. The next episode of BIM Pure Live with Pia next week at the same time about Revit templates. Yeah, I think that's it. So, back to you, Kevin. Fascinating. Any final words, call to actions, message for the audience before we leave?
No, just if you guys want the families, if you have ideas for families, how I can make it better, or if you have an idea for a family that we can create and share with all of you guys, like, hey, let me know. Like my email's on my LinkedIn. You can, of course, go to that link that Nicholas is going to put out there, download the model, use it, modify it, and I'm curious to see what you guys do with it. Yeah, that'll be really cool to see how the structural designers in the room use some of those families.
All right, we got great comments. People saying great presentation, given its demand, amazing as always, and so on.
Thanks,
So
guys.
appreciate it. So thanks everyone for watching live, and see you next week. Goodbye.